Well, hi there, boys and girls, and everybody in between. There has been a lot of talk about a Trump coup or Trump stealing the election, and I wanted to give my thoughts on that subject. Um, it has especially been, or not especially, but the people that I have heard it the most from have been Benjamin Dixon of the Benjamin Dixon Show and Bo from the fifth column gentleman. So is Trump trying to steal the election? I mean, obviously, I don't even think that that's up for debate, and I think that Benjamin Dixon is absolutely right in what we in the National Guard in Denmark would call stand guard at your rifle, directly translated, meaning that it's time to pay attention. The problem is, though, of course, that it was time to pay attention in 2000, right? That's when that ship took off. That's that is part of the strategy, or that was the ultimate. That was the turn in the marathon in on the final stretch, the final 6 miles. That was the 2000 election, right? Again, if you've been following my podcast, you know that I've been talking about this since forever, and that I believe that this is a continuation of the business plot from 1933 that was ultimately kiboshed by Major General Butler, the highest decorated Marine at the time. So that brings me to a comment that I wanted to make on what I heard Bo said, because I could totally have gotten it wrong. And again, I admire both of these gentlemen tremendously. Their knowledge, their passion, and their dedication to their craft. Absolutely admire both of them, and would love to talk to them at as an interview, because really interesting people, or they seem interesting to me. So I just want to put that out there. So that's not what this is about. But he's talking. So he was. So I think, and this was on Twitter. I believe somebody was talking about the generals, and that the generals would be with Trump, and that would then lead to a military coup. So my thoughts on that. First of all, so Bo says that, well, the generals are not with Trump. Okay. My thoughts on that is, of course, that I don't recall, and please correct me, but the most famous military coups in my lifetime certainly were not. The rule was not that it was a general that did it, right? So the notion that we need generals, or that a military coup would be led by a general, to me is they're not necessary. Colonels, probably, maybe. Captains, definitely, right? But what you need is the company, the battalion commanders, the company commanders, the people who are trusted by the men. The generals are, you start, when you're becoming a full bird colonel, and you start, and you end up in those ranks, your contact, unless you're one of those very special officers with the enlisted men, and their love for you, but the battalion commander, the company commander, the firing squad commanders, obviously there is a trust and a devotion to that. Those are the people that they have been fighting for, because it's certainly not been for you and me. Why should they? When they come over there, when they go over there and discover that, fuck, there is no threat to you and me and their moms and dads and brothers and sisters. They're over there fighting for the corporations, which circles us back to Smedley Butler and the book that he wrote, War is a Racket, right? So what happened there in 1933 was that he was approached by the same owners, or the owners of the country at the time, and they wanted to put a stop to FDR and his brand New Deal, right? Because that was that was the reshuffling of the deck after the Great Depression, or during the Great Depression, that the country needs, that we need today, that I talked about in a previous podcast not too many days ago, that what Joe Biden needs to do, unless he wants to ensure that Trump or somebody else is elected 4 years from now. So the owners at that time did what they thought, and that most people would think is the natural way to take power in a country, is that they went to the military. What they discovered, and I'm sure that he was not the only one, he was the most famous one. Again, he was the highest decorated military officer person at the time. But what they discovered is that there is a very firm tradition in America where the military does not interfere in domestic politics. I mean, they don't have to. They have the CIA for that, right? So that failed. They were ratted out. Of course, nobody was ever prosecuted, as it is today, as it is back then. The rich and the powerful, they... Damn that string. Are we going to do some skip jumping? Are never prosecuted. Now, rich people didn't become rich. The wealthiest of the wealthiest are not stupid, right? They have other flaws, but I don't think that in general stupidity is one of them. So why would you, if and it is the goal, to maintain power and give as little to us as possible to maintain that power, right? That's the whole goal. So that's still the goal, and they want to ensure that there's no grand new deal, no big reshuffling of the deck, giving us power. Well, and taking back some of that power that was taken from them, so that they can have the monopolies that we see today, right? The bank crashes that we have today, we didn't have up until Bill Clinton, right? The concentration of wealth and corporate power didn't take off really exponentially until Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was the one that ensured that our owners could have their propaganda machines that didn't have to cater to anybody else, right? So now we have Fox News and their fucking bubble. We have MSNBC and their bubble, and Newsmax and CNN and all these other, everybody in their own bubble. And that only happens, and that can only happen because of the deregulation, the end of the fairness doctrine that happened during Bill Clinton. So what the owners now have done, and what they have ensured, is that they have sidelined the military. They have made sure that that pressure will not be put on them to save the country. That not one general is going to think, hey, what's going on here? Or there is really something bad going on. I think I should step in, like Butler did. And the way that they've done that is that they have co-opted every branch of government. They have a majority, and that not a majority of the people, but a majority of the state houses needed to set policy, to create the laws and to create the laws and ensure that those laws are enacted. At the same time, they don't have to, they can lose elections. Bernie Sanders and the squad can push through legislation, and they now have the courts to reject that legislation. They say, they didn't do it right. It's the law, it's not us. The law said you can't have national health care. The law is telling us that the federal government can't negotiate for a price reduction and use the power of the purse to get better pricing. It's the law that says that it's okay for them to pollute more. And if by hook or crook, Donald Trump actually finds a case in the states that he needs to change the election into his favor, it will be the law again that does it. Now, do we think that SCOTUS, on behalf of Donald Trump, is going to just give up and lose all their credibility and ensure that if Democrats can, that they won't pack the courts, as it's called, or rebalance the courts, as I think is a better way of putting it? So I don't think they're going to play that game. But be assured, there's not a general, active general today that is going to go up and say, yeah, this is all fucked up, and yeah, I understand that's just a kangaroo court, and that wasn't the will of the people, and that this is not right. This is not what is true and what the people want and what they voted for. This is ways around. There's not a general that's going to step up there, because they're going to have to then stand up against the Supreme Court. Not only a president, but a Supreme Court. And there's going to be enough people around, humans, voters, electors, that are the centrists that are going to say, yeah, that's unfortunately, but it's the law. It's the law. The law did it. The law, it went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said that they were right. Yeah, I agree with you, but it's the law. They did it. They went through the channels, and yeah, you just lost, and you just got to get used to it. And I don't like it either, but that's just the way it is. They have painted us into a situation that the only way out of this is revolution. Maybe, but certainly massive public civil disobedience. Because they have the courts. And it doesn't matter if we have Biden as a president, right? Because he's not... I doubt that he will rebalance the courts. And that leads us back to the long half-hour one I did the other time. He won't rebalance the courts. He's not going to give back the powers that was vested in him after 9/11, and he won't give back the powers that was given to the Homeland Security, the FBI, and the CIA to spy on us and to protect us from a Donald Trump too that will run for re-election and will beat him like a drum because he is not going to, Joe Biden will not rise to the occasion. So as I've said the whole time, an American coup d'etat, an American coup to fascism is not going to have tanks in the streets and people marching in lederhosen and you know, the leather belt and Sieg Heil and all that shit. It's not going to happen. That's not how it's done in America. It's done this way. They've lulled us into a sleep, a slumber, on fat and shit entertainment. And now that they have stacked the election in such a way that Democrats have to win in massive ways just to barely get a majority. And by Democrats, I'm only using it, you know, in the old terms as if they were fighting for people. But anybody that wants to do something that the vast majority of Americans are for, healthcare, education, the environment, right? Broad majority of Americans wants us to do and take drastic action on those fronts. Not going to happen, because to elect the people that will follow such an agenda, we have to win, I don't know what the number is, like 10, 20, 30% now. So all the institutions are the same. The courthouses look the same. The judges are the same. The TV is the same. The police is the same. Everything is the same, except none of it will work for us. So is Trump trying to steal the election? Absolutely. Will he succeed? No, he will not. But that's not the dangerous part. The dangerous part is that the entire system that made people want to vote for Trump will be intact 4 years from now. And the powers given to the presidency that almost pushed us into a non-constitutional presidency will also be intact 4 years from now. And therein lies the danger. Anyway, take care of yourself, take care of each other, be safe.